Hi guys, 2 seed, 1 seed, 8, 21, 8. That could be referencing obviously 21st of August, which has passed, and George Bush says August in the video. Or it could be that the 8 is just representative of the 8th month, which is August, but not on the Gregorian calendar, on the lunar calendar. The 8th lunar month, which could be represented as August yet again. The 21st lunar day is the 30th of September, the last day of September. Now, interpreting this as a volcanic eruption, because it's got a volcano on the side of the apple, this could be, as mentioned before, fissure number 8. Here we have an F forming, which again could go with the fissure, and then the 8 in the middle, which could represent the 8th fissure where the eruption comes from. We then have a connection to a tsunami event of some kind happening. So, surmise that something in connection with Kilauea volcano erupting causes a tsunami. There's also the interpretation for LCV being La Cumbre Vieja, the V coming on Obama's forehead in the middle. So that could then be a representation of what happens to London. Obviously, La Cumbre Vieja is in the Atlantic and Kilauea is in the Pacific. We have a possible interpretation for London being 17 foot underwater. And if that's connected to La Cumbre Vieja volcano, then that would make sense as to why we also may have a representation to the Big Apple, which is New York. An eruption of that volcano would cause a tsunami affecting both of those two places, the East Coast and London. Also, from Obama's perspective, the 17 here becomes an L and an X, which to me is saying an X on part of London. I think that is corroborated with the pound coin being partially covered. From Obama's perspective, if this is the north and this is the south, then this would be the southeast. So that's where London is. Again, we have an L and an X over part of the L, which would be maybe a representation of part of London underwater, and that could be connected to the LCV, the Cumbre Vieja volcano, which could be purposefully erupted on the 21st lunar day in the 8th lunar month, which is September the 30th. Again, that could be a double-layered meaning, also connecting to Kilauea, as obviously we have Obama, the volcano, the Fissure 8 reference. So maybe the both of them on the same day. That would be unlikely, but possible. On the same date reference, 21/8, last year they stopped Big Ben for 4 years, and in this video, I think that's what we can see here is a reference to Big Ben stopped. Now, to the side of Big Ben, we have this cresting wave, which appears to be moving forward at the height of Big Ben. Again, they've referenced a lot of tsunamis in the newspapers that I've been reading as tsunamis at the height of Big Ben, always using Big Ben as a height reference. And that seems to be what we're having here. Now, again, that could, again, be just representing a tsunami at Big Ben's height, or this could be actually talking about a tsunami for London, which obviously will come up the River Thames. And today they had their annual Thames barrier closing test, and obviously you can see the word test there. So tests obviously come as part of practice, but for real events. And it could be that 7 days later, on the 30th, we have the real event which causes the Thames barrier to be closed, but the tsunami goes over that at the height of Big Ben, flowing all the way up the River Thames, which flows straight through the centre of London, which is where we get the Big Ben tsunami reference. But also we appear to be having, if this is an interpretation that pans out, between the 30th and the 2nd of October, an event happening which looks like it's coming for the West Coast, and that would be the United States. The tsunami wave is much taller than the one for London, even taller than Big Ben, so I don't know if that's the connection to the Kilauea volcano. Obviously, if La Cumbre Vieja erupts on a smaller scale and causes a tsunami, then that would make sense. as I think that in the scene we have here, well, next scene actually, on Obama's face, frozen. Well, the scene that we have on Obama's face, where it seems that his nose is made up of a volcano erupting. I think that we also have a reference to VI and him looking down at the 8, which could be a VIA explosion, which is the largest that a volcano can produce. And obviously, I think that may be connected with all the water that has flooded into the volcano from the various hurricanes that have passed by or through Hawaii in the last 2 months. So the volcano is waterlogged. Obviously, that water is going to come into contact with magma at some point, flash into steam and not be able to escape, building up pressure. So all this time, pressure could have been building up in there. And as I've said, we've seen activity resume in fissure number 8 in terms of the glow returning and the little volcanic cone forming in the middle of it. So that could be on September the 30th or October the 1st, which would be the 22nd lunar day in the 8th lunar month, and that could be represented by the V here as well. And then obviously we move outside and we've got the reference to 23, which is the 2nd of October if we're looking at the 8th lunar month and the 23rd lunar day. During all that time, from the 1st of September to the 30th of November, 40 different countries around the Pacific Rim will be taking part in a mock tsunami scenario for September-November period. And this is to test their tsunami decision-making procedures and communication systems and processes. But obviously it's taking place in a very high watch time, pretty much for the rest of the watch time that I have. The tsunami drill will be going on, and it's possible that September the 30th, October the 1st, or October the 2nd, we could see the tsunami in the Pacific, either related to Kilauea volcano or something I am suspicious of but I have no evidence of, which is a large body of something impacting the ocean from above. And I think that has connections to why the solar observatory was closed. Obviously, we've got the images from the solar observatory that were taken by somebody, and we don't know if those images were allowed to be released or whether they were, accidentally made public by someone who was quick to take the photos. But either way, we saw what looked like an eclipse of some kind. And it's possible that during that watch period of September the 30th to October the 2nd, there could be an artificial eclipse. Obviously, there's not one scheduled, lunar or solar, so whatever would block out the sun would have to be artificial. And that could be why they shut the solar observatory down in order to, conduct their tests before the event. Or it could be that there is actually something coming towards the Earth. Like, people have called it various different things. I won't go through all the names, but you guys are well aware of the different names that they've given it. But there actually could be something coming, which they've been hiding, and until the last minute, everyone's going to see it. But as I said, I think that's an illusion. I don't think there's actually going to be anything coming from above. I think it will be an illusion of something coming from above, but a lot of people will believe because the eyes can be deceived, and in turn that deceives the brain. But looking at the size of the tsunami, that would connect a bit more because it's much, much bigger. And unless it's a VIA eruption from Kilauea, then it could be something impacting the ocean. Or it could be those events are synonymous with each other. Something impacts the ocean, affecting Kilauea, and those two things combine to create this mega tsunami or mega tsunami. And that could all occur, in the next week and a bit's time. Just keep an eye on anything like that. If you do see anything in terms of a solar eclipse or something eclipsing the sun or the moon, just know that it's, well, in my opinion, it would be faked, an illusion. And what would really be happening is underwater detonations would coincide with the illusionary impact of the object into the water, creating the illusion of that thing causing the tsunami, when really most likely submarines would be involved, nuclear detonations of some kind would also be involved as well. We've seen the video with the 5 waves of tsunami heading towards China, 500 feet tall, that suddenly just disappeared from radar. It could be that that was them testing the weapon, as the author in the documentary said, and it could be that they plan to use that coinciding with a false event that looks like an asteroid impact or something like that. Keeping an eye on all these things. At the same time, on September the 30th, Auckland New Zealanders will be treated to a tsunami siren test at noon on that day. So again, I don't know if anything's going to happen on that day or if it's a preparation for events that may follow in the next couple of days, like October the 1st or October the 2nd. But I'll just put it out there so you guys can, think about it and be aware if anything does happen, that the potential for it being pre-planned is there. Iran over to the Middle East now. They're doing air drills, or did air drills, over the Strait of Hormuz. This followed their naval drills. So obviously they are preparing to actually block the Strait of Hormuz. We know that's going to cause conflict. We know the United States and other countries are prepared to go in and fight over the oil. That's pretty much the basis of, the last, I don't know how many wars, but oil is always a central part, or a location where oil is prevalent. But at the same time, as those practices are going on, we've got other things that, lend weight to, or kind of coincide with those scenarios, which just make it a little bit more serious to pay attention to it. Like Russia is blaming Israel for the downing of one of its jets. It was downed by Syria, but Russia is saying that Israel provided the wrong information about the area of the attacks, of the airstrikes they planned the areas where they planned to launch the airstrikes, and because of that, the Russian jet didn't or couldn't move to safety or a safe place. So that, to me, may lead to a no-fly zone over Syria, imposed by Russia and Syria itself. Obviously, you still got Iran in the country, which is why Israel keeps on attacking Iranian bases in Syria. So if a no-fly zone is imposed, it's highly likely that Israel will not adhere to that, and that could lead to direct conflicts between Russia and Israel. And obviously that would draw in other partners like the United States, and there we have another potential for World War III escalating, alongside all the other potential scenarios that World War III could escalate from in the Middle East. At the moment, still paying attention to Idlib. Things have been delayed there in terms of buffer zones being created and stuff like that, but they still plan to attack there, and that could be coming very soon. The Iranians are blaming Israel also for the attack that took place at the military parade. Alongside them, they're also blaming Saudi Arabia, the United Kingdom, and Dutch and Danish countries as well. They have been summoned to Iran to explain why they have been harboring terrorists in their countries, according to the Iranian reports anyway. And that all kind of just, again, leads to this instance where if Iran is blaming people like Britain, for example, and a chemical attack or some sort of attack happens in Britain that they plan to blame on Iran, they have more of a reason to do so, maybe suggesting that Iran retaliated for this attack on their military parade, and for that reason we then have to go to war against Iran, whether directly or in Syria. And obviously, again, another potential for World War III. There's a lot of scenarios where World War III could escalate, and that's not good. At the same time, that September 30th to October the 2nd kind of watch period, Israel is set to demolish the Bedouin village in the West Bank that a lot of countries have been trying to urge Israel not to do, but they are. They've urged the residents to clear their houses by October the 1st. So potentially October the 2nd, demolition will begin. And I think it's pretty obvious that there's going to be conflicts arising from this event. so keep an eye on that as well. China are cracking down on Christians. Persecution is at its highest level in China since the Cultural Revolution. Um, Basically, they're getting persecuted because they have a different religion, because they worship the Heavenly Father. And according to this report, all praise should really be heaped upon Xi Jinping, the president of China, now president for life, which just reinforces my theory about China being the dominant country after the war, them being the ones that implement the beast system. They have the symbol of the dragon, which is also the serpent, and they had the Tiangong-1 space station, which they also had the name of Heavenly Palace or Celestial Palace. That's a misrepresentation of when Jesus returns and brings the kingdom of heaven to earth. This was a heavenly palace crashing down to earth on the 2nd of April. At the same time, it also looked like a great red dragon. So you had two references biblically there to the great red dragon crashing down and to the heavenly palace touching down on earth. That crashed down, as I said, on the 2nd of April. If events are planned for the 2nd of October, that would be 6 months after the dragon touched down, which in their backwards, upside down world could be interpreted as 9 months. Then the waters or the flood comes forth to, go after the woman who's been taken to a place of safety. The 2nd of October would correspond to the 23rd lunar day in the 8th lunar month, where if they are referencing 6 months later, 9 months upside down, some sort of flood event linked to the dragon pursuing the woman, then we may have a double reference in terms of the 23rd being where we see the image of the large tsunami coming forth. Again, probably the representation or symbolism of the dragon spewing water forth. And that's obviously not just for the West Coast. That's for London. That's for the East Coast. So water's breaking, basically the sea and the waves roaring with perplexity. So definitely keeping an eye out. September the 30th, 1st of October, and the 2nd of October. China's, I think, ready to implement their own currency, state-backed. They've been banning and blocking all others in their country. So in the event that money like the pound, the dollar, even the yuan are no longer viable, China has a system in place that they are ready to implement, which is a cryptocurrency, which I don't think you'll be able to buy or sell anything without that. And I've noticed how all the schools are teaching the children Mandarin and everything like that. So it's quite clear that China is becoming a lot more dominant. And the fact that they have the symbol of the dragon, the heavenly palace touching down, the great dragon crashing down in the radar image of the space station coming down, it all just says to me that they are the implementers of the beast system, and somewhere out of there or involved in that is the Antichrist. Keep an eye out for people with close connections with China, or even the Chinese government themselves, like Xi Jinping. Chinese ghost town. This obviously, again, kind of lends itself to an end of days kind of scenario where they've built loads of, or dozens of different cities which could house thousands of people, combined housing up to 300 million people. Now, I don't think they're necessarily all going to be Chinese people, as in like the 2012 movie where the arcs were built in China. I think that people will flock to China, and that's where they will live. And obviously, that may be one of the only places on the earth that is, still livable after the events that have taken place. And with children kind of learning Mandarin and stuff like that, again, it kind of falls into that thing of the children will be accepted, but the adults will not be. So it's kind of that choice between potential life for your child and potential death, but that's only if you're not thinking religiously, because obviously if you're thinking religiously, then you know that going into that system is the last thing you'll do. And after that is certain hellfire. There's no going back from that. So even if, you know, the wilderness looks like certain death, I think that's where people should head, because, you know, just do as Jesus did and head into the wilderness away from the temptation of it all. Obviously, it will be very tempting in a world that, you know, there might not be food available, water available, shelter, all that kind of stuff. The comforts that man has come to enjoy, definitely go and run back to it. You can see how extensively these cities have been built, how equipped they are. They're ready to be occupied. And with a civilization of 300 million, that falls in line with the Georgia Guidestones of maintaining humanity under 500 million. So 300 million is obviously 200 million below, and that would fall in line with it. There may obviously be more people living elsewhere, and there definitely will be, because there'll be an opposing force to the Antichrist system, which is the body of the church, which remains the ones that have, you know, survived persecution. And when the final battle comes, you know, against that last body of the church, that's when Jesus returns and saves us all. So with all that said, you guys, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.